Hey there, thanks for joining. We are starting the Shelter in Place CP drawing stream tonight, and I believe this is our fifth installment of this particular study where we're drawing blonde hair. So if you've been following along, then tonight what we're going to do is we're going to start adding some solvent to the process. And if you're wanting to follow along with us and you're wanting to download the reference, you're welcome to do that. You can go over to sharpenedartist.com/live streams, and there will be a reference there, this very one that we're drawing from. If you scroll all the way down the page. So I'm using Gamsel by Gamblin, and we're just going to start this right away because we want to be able to draw on top of it here a little while later. Using a bigger brush than probably I would normally because I want to get it done quick. And that's really the only reason. Normally I wouldn't use a brush this big, but we're kind of at this point where we kind of have to hurry this along a little bit. Hey Harry, how are you? Harry's just like first every time, I tell you. Hey Linda, how's it going? Linda is over on YouTube Live. Harry is on Facebook. Good to see you guys out here. I got my regulars here. Appreciate you guys coming over here. Okay. Some of my regulars. There's some others that I'm sure will be joining a little bit later. Okay, the one thing that this does, maybe I should zoom in here a little bit, a little closer here, but it will fill in the white of the paper very quickly. It smooths out some of the application is what it does. Now, the other thing that it also does, a lot of people don't talk about this, is it destroys some of the nice layers that you may have built up. So it's just something to keep in mind if that happens. So, hey Yulia, how are you? Yulia is over in Los Angeles, she says. She is over on YouTube Live. Now, I also have to think about gravity. I'm on an angled surface, and so this will run a little bit. So I want to think about that. Want to make sure that when I'm applying anything that is very very thick, or there's a lot of solvent on the brush, that it may have the tendency to run, and I want to be aware of it. Oh, so I'm using solvent. I'm using Gamsel. I think you can see it here. Gamsel by Gamblin. And so if you have any odorless mineral spirit, then you can use that. So Harry just asked what I was using, and I answered him, and Yulia is asking, did you hear what I said, Yulia? You may have heard it by now. But yeah, I'm using OMS. I'm using odorless mineral spirits. And this particular OMS is Gamsel by Gamblin. There are others that you could use as well. So as long as, it's something that will break down the binders and the pigment, separate some of the wax and oil that is in the... Ah, Harry says he's never seen it used on hair. Okay, cool. That's what I usually do, is use it on hair. I don't usually use it in the face or anything like that, but I use it in the hair, typically. With a drier brush, I'm going to go up into these areas that are a little more faint. But when I dip into my bottle, then I'm going to use the majority of the liquid when it first is being applied. I'm going to go in these areas that are more concentrated with pigment. So Yulia, yes, any mineral spirit will work. I just found that I really am a little partial to Gamsol by Gamblin. So by now, when we're doing this part of it, there are some things that we just have to make sure we've already established, because it's hard to take anything off once you apply solvent. And so you just have to make sure that you're okay with the way the drawing is looking at this point. Now, I know some people use it as part of the process the whole time, and that's a different process. I have done that before, but that's typically not what I do. So Yulia is asking what kind of brush am I using. The cheapest, worst brush I can find, to be honest. So soft, I'm also being funny, but it's a soft bristle brush, synthetic hair, and on this surface. So for Stonehenge, that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to buy expensive brushes to use with solvent all the time. And the reason for that is because you're going to tear the brush up. You're breaking down the brush every time you're applying solvent. Although I've used these for years and they've been doing fine. But I also want to find a very small brush, though. I want to make sure it's small, but it's flexible. So any good watercolor brush would work, or some kind of go to the all-purpose, or the ones that are made for mixed media, things like that. I'm not going to buy a $20 paintbrush that I'm going to tear up, because that's what solvent will do. It will tear it up. So constantly, what you're doing is you're pushing those bristles into solvent, and that's going to, over time, just tear up your brush. I have known people that just spend an inordinate amount of money on all these brushes that they're going to use for colored pencil, and I don't know. I haven't noticed a big difference when I use a brush that is more expensive and using these cheaper ones. I just know they get torn up when you're using solvent, So I don't know. I've not been convinced that that's going to really help anything. Now, when I'm using solvent on a sanded paper, Then I'm going to use a stiff bristled brush for a non-absorbent surface. So a fix-it brush or something like that is a good one for a non-absorbent surface. Okay, this is probably enough.
Julia Feldman. Would mineral spirits work on all kinds of paper, or is some paper better than other, or maybe some may not be suitable for it?
Yeah, so Yulia is asking if mineral spirits would work on all paper. Maybe it's not appropriate for some. And yeah, so I mean, not all paper, right? Papers are different depending on the type of paper. You may not be able to use as much solvent on a particular paper. Anything that, I mean, if you've got drawing paper, if you've got some very thin paper, then you're going to have difficulty with using solvent on that because it's just it's not designed to hold up to any type of wet media. But a good watercolor paper will work. Stonehenge works really well with using solvent. Okay, so today I want to use these. I want to use a few new pencils here. I don't think we're really going in a different direction with color, but I want to use these softer wax-based pencils. So they're very close to what we've been using. Sanguine, which is more of a red color. Chocolate, which is a very, very, very dark brown. And then Warm Earth. We got to wait for this to dry just a little bit. And then I want to come back in there with my dark honey and brown ochre for sure in some key areas here. Sharpen that up. Sometimes while you're waiting for this to dry, you can help speed up the process using an air rocket and just keep pushing air in here. It will help dry it a little bit. If you're really in a big hurry, you can get a blow dryer and not turn any heat on, just dry air. Do it that way. Just make sure you've got your surface taped down. Pull it away from your board if possible. You can always use some kind of drying rack, something like that, to be able to speed up the process. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is this whole area back here along this back side could be a little bit darker, and I didn't put a whole lot of solvent back there. So I can go ahead and start working in there a little bit. And some of this hair back here, these sections are a little bit too bright. They need to be toned down just a little bit in value. They need to be a little darker in value. And so I can start doing that. Is there a straight? Is there a? So Sergi Man's asking, or is there a really straight light down her hair? Like right here, the highlight you're talking about, or are you talking about this? Maybe, I don't know. We did put a little strand right in there yesterday. Obviously, we're not done with it yet. If that's what you're talking about, I'm not sure. Sergi Man. Okay. Was that it? I don't know. So Harry is asking why a stiff bristled brush on a non-absorbent paper or surface. And the reason for that is because you have to have some kind of resistance in the brush and to be able to move it around a little bit. If it's soft, then that coarse texture of the sanded paper will just tear up the brush, you know. So here we go. Oh, yeah, sure. So that's what you're looking at. Yeah. So what we'll have to do, so I was putting one of these stray blonde hairs in there. So I was just showing how we would do that. And so what we're going to do is work on the values around that. I did that near the end of the stream last night. Okay, this. Yeah, you're welcome, Harry. Harry has got some really great questions. I really appreciate it. Okay. Sharpen that pencil up a little bit. This pencil is a little darker than maybe what it appears that it is. So let's see. Push this back here. So Hasib is joining us over on YouTube Live. Okay. Oh, thank you, Karen K1 over on YouTube Live. Thanks for joining. Okay, now just some key little accent areas. I'm going to use this chocolate in here. And another reason to use these soft wax-based pencils, the Derwent drawing set, is because you're going, hey Melanie, good to see you over there on Facebook Live. You can use the soft wax-based pencils like this and still get more layers on your drawing. These are 100% light fast, and that's the other great thing about them. But you can also go over areas on your drawing once you're done using these light fast pencils, these soft, very soft wax-based pencils, and you can spread out some of the pigment that you laid down. And that's kind of nice because it puts some of the pigment down, but you can use some of your harder pencils to move them around. So Karen, you said you have Prismacolors. So I'm guessing you're meaning the Prismacolor Premier pencils. Not a bad pencil. It's not one I use though, but I know a lot of artists that do use that pencil. Very cool. I shouldn't say, I didn't say never, but I shouldn't say I don't use them once in a while. Not very often. Okay. Let's go back down here. I want to look at that, see what that's looking like. There should be enough of the area up there dry, but I don't really want to chance that. I'm going to come back down here instead. And that could actually be a little lighter. Sergi, man, you're doing university work and not doing art. Tell you what, he's got to work on his priorities. Oh well, we can't all be perfect. That's all right. Okay. Add just a little bit of this chocolate right in here. I see some right in here. We'll spread that out a little bit as well. We come in there with some harder pencils. Now this part right up here is a little bit darker. I hope I'm not getting my head in the frame. Okay, right in here. Well, there you go. Sergi, man, cracks me up. Okay, let's follow this all the way over here. Now see, even if that is a little bit wet, I can still add some of this softer wax-based pencil. I'm not pressing down very hard at all. Very, very light pressure. But it's still going to adhere to the paper. So Yulia's asking what papers I would recommend. Or, I'm sorry, pencils I would recommend. And the pencils that I would start out with would be either... Let me look at this real quick. Would be either Polychromos by Faber-Castell or Luminance or Luminance by Caran d'Ache or Derwent Lightfast. Those would be the pencils that I would try to start out with if at all possible. I do have a supply list over on my website, and I think it's under resources in the top menu bar. I think you can find it there. Okay, now that may look really, really dark at the moment. That's okay. Put some of this in here. And down here. Okay, and if I'm careful, I can put some of these lines, darker lines right in here. And and it'll still make sense. I want to make sure this is all dark up here though too. There we go. Okay, this was looking a little bit too red. Oh, thank you so much. Colored Pencil Magazine is commenting over there on Facebook Live. Appreciate that so much. There we go. And hey, Shiny. Shiny always puts a smile on my face. She's over there watching on YouTube Live. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed this or not, guys, but when I put the solvent in here, then in some areas you could start seeing more of the red coming out in what we had put down. Remember, we put quite a bit of that sepia red in here. And that, that's something that you just want to be aware of. Sometimes the way that the solvent will dissolve pencil layers and pigments doesn't always dissolve everything the way that you think it should. And so you just want to look at it and be aware of it, that sometimes there will be a little bit of a temperature change in the colors that you put down. Okay. Oh, Sergi, man. All right. All right. Let's do this. I want to look for a few of those other dark areas. Right back in here. So Shiny does some incredible. You see, you're talking about. She's talking about going to life drawing. She does some incredible portraits. Okay. Yeah, now Harry's talking about over on Facebook using solvent on pastels, or fixative rather on pastels, and yeah, that's one thing. Pastels they're actually terrible with that. That anytime you start adding fixative to pastels, they just shift. The color shifts big time. You don't experience that as much in colored pencil. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of, that can happen pretty easily in pastels, though. Okay, let's see. I'm going to switch over. Well, use some of this sanguine down in here. Just to shift that color a little bit in certain spots there. it's really, really a bright, bright orangish red. So Lynn is asking from over on Facebook how long I've been working on this hair. What does it say in the video? Whatever video number this is, I think it's 5, right? So approximately 5 hours, something like that, I guess. Is that right? Yeah. Thanks for joining us over there, Lynn, though. Appreciate it. There we go. I always want to darken up some of these areas where the hair is tucked away from our view. Oh, we might have Linda. Linda's saying that over on YouTube that one day we may have gone for 2 hours. It probably was. It was probably close to 2 hours. Yeah, you're probably right. So Shiny, you're saying you're asking if we want to join a free life drawing session Sunday 31st on Zoom. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe someone's interested in that. I won't have time for that, but that would be cool. Linda, are you asking Shiny that? Maybe, I don't know. Linda, if you were asking me about my free portrait prep drawing course, if that's what you were asking, then that should be down in the video description. I think I got that link in there this time, so if you're interested in that, and actually, guys, if any of you are interested in that, check out that link. We're going to be starting June the 1st, opening up that free portrait prep drawing course. So I'm so excited about that. That's something that we launched several years ago now, and we're going to be launching it again. Okay. Let me pull this sepia red back in here. There we go. Okay, I'm not real happy with the way that's looking back there on the back. So it's looking a little erratic. And I want there to be more of a value shift in certain spots. So right in here, I can make this a little bit darker. And right in here, and down here. Okay. Now, let's see here. I had too many vertical lines right in there as well. That starting to destroy the realism. So, Shiny, are you hosting this? Is this something you're doing? Okay, let me see what that looks like. That looks a little bit better, a little bit more what I was looking for. Let's see. Back in here with this. There we go. Just want to firm this up just a little bit right here. I know there's some other crazy hair back behind there, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm simplifying it over here. And let's see. There we go. Okay, now let's see here. Yeah, I was just wondering, Shiny, if that's are you teaching that? Is that something you're teaching? Or is someone else teaching it? I don't know if you heard me earlier. All right, let's see what that looks like. Oh, I got it. So you're not teaching it, but you're going to be a part of it. Okay, I got you. Okay, so I think that's dark enough. If I can darken these areas back in here, then some of the brighter highlights will start to make more sense, right? They'll have more context, and they'll look a little bit brighter. Okay, let's see here. So, Shiny, I see what you're saying. You're saying you would like to do that sometime, host your own sessions. Well, good. I hope you're able to do that at some point. That would be cool. When you do, I want you to think about something. Are you going to allow other people to to advertise when you're doing your live sessions? I want you to just think about that, because that's kind of what you're doing out here right now. All right. Which I don't mind it, but I know some people don't like that, and it's just something to think about. Warm Earth. I haven't used this Warm Earth a whole lot. I'm going to put it in here just a little bit. It's a little bit more than I wanted. I'm going off the frame there too, looks like. There we go. Okay, well, if you guys have any questions about the process and what we're doing, I invite those. And if you'd like to learn more or continue learning, we're going to be doing live streams inside Monthly Sharpener. And that's over at monthly-sharpener.sharpenedartist.com. I think there's a link inside the description. If there's not, then you can always go over to my website, sharpenedartist.com, and you'll see it over there. I would love to have you join us over there. We're going to be doing private live streams over there inside the Monthly Sharpener. No, that's... Yeah, no, I would love to come, Shiny, but I'm so behind on a lot of things, so I probably won't be able to. But it's just something to think about when you come on someone else's platform. It sounds like a lot of fun, though. I've done some life drawing sessions, and I used to do it I think it was the second Tuesday of every month right here locally. It was a lot of fun, and there was one artist in particular that would draw caricatures and of the models, and that was just a lot of fun to see, what their rendition was, their interpretation. It was really pretty interesting. Okay. I like using this Tombow Mono eraser, but sometimes this little thing back here, little clip, gets in the way. It doesn't always cooperate, There we go. Get rid of that. Okay. Oh yeah. Yep, you'll always get that, right, Shiny? I think that's fun to be able to see what other people are doing. All Okay, that's not looking the way I wanted it to. So I can take that off a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so that did not, it's really not turning out the way I wanted right down here. You see I've got some areas that I went in the wrong direction. So I could, probably get out magic tape and try to lift that off there, different things. But I pretty much have used a pretty light touch, and so I can just use this plastic eraser here, and I can get rid of that pretty easily. I got rid of enough of it that it's not going to be a big deal now. Okay. And that's what happens when you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So come back in here and kind of redeem this area a little bit. Okay. I can add some lines that are going the direction that I want right in here. Then I can come back in here with some lighter pencils. Press a little bit harder right in there. Now, if this wasn't a study, and I found that was happening, I probably would take a lot more care and probably would lift this, especially if it's if it was a commission or something. I would lift that with magic tape and try that three-pronged approach, right, where you try lifting first, then you try lifting with a kneaded eraser, and then you try lifting with tape, and then finally you scrub it and just remove it by scrubbing it and beating up on the paper, right? Didn't really have to do that this time on a study. It's not going to matter too much. Okay. Let's move over here. I keep looking at the smaller image because I want to make sure that it's communicating as a smaller thumbnail kind of image, and that it's making sense when I look at it on the small screen. Okay, down here, I think it could be a little bit darker than it is. And we're almost done, folks. I mean, this is getting close to being finished now. I mean, obviously we could go on, and we could spend a lot of time, on this. But I don't think that, for a demonstration, I don't know that that would matter a whole lot. Okay, I want to use some strokes up here just to add. I need to use a harder lead pencil now as well. Right up here. And just kind of blend that together just a little bit. So. Oh, thanks, Shiny. Appreciate it. Okay. Now I got to figure out what I did. My brown, I used it on a different drawing. I've got these in layers over here. Let's see here. I'm going to see what this burnt sienna. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, sharpen up my Polychromos burnt sienna, and it's got a hard enough lead that we can come in here pretty carefully. I got to contort my body a little bit, get in the right spot here to be able to be careful and add some of these strokes in here. And in the highlight areas right in here, if I use a light enough touch and I don't go really very dark, you know, I don't add a lot of pressure, then I can create just a very soft line right in there. And I think that's convincing enough to be able to do it like that. Okay, right up here is that part I wanted to add some smaller lines in here. Now if I keep turning the pencil and I'm using the right angle on the tip of the pencil, and I can keep a pretty sharp point for a while. It is starting to dull a little bit. So instead of sharpening that pencil, instead of sharpening it and wasting a lot of pencil, I can just sharpen it right there on that sandpaper and continue. Saves me both pencil and time if I do that. There's a hair going in this direction, so I can add a little bit of a shadow right there by it. Add a few lines right in here. You know, I'm thinking a little bit more about texture of some of these sections of hair, and I'm thinking a little bit more about individual hairs now than I was in our previous sessions. But I still want to think about each section of hair and all these different hair sections, you know, need to kind of stand on their own, but yet have some continuity within the entire piece. All the hair needs to look like it goes together. Let's see here. Get rid of this. So yeah, shiny. I don't know for sure what it would be at a hardware store. I mean, I'm sure you could get some sandpaper and use it for sharpening pencils at a hardware store. I mean, probably a 400 grit, or maybe not quite that coarse. Maybe 600 might work well. Okay, let me take a look here. See what we're looking like. You know, some of the areas are looking a little bit green, and that's fine. If you want to get away from a lot of that green, then you can come back in there with more red. And so, you know, if you use like that red, that sepia red, or like this burnt sienna, you know, pencil colors that have a little more red in them. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Maybe you can see it a little easier. Right in here, this is where I use some of that sanguine, and I'm able now to move that in a different direction just a little bit. And so to me, it adds a little more of a realistic texture and flow to the hair, because, you know, hair is not perfect and it's not going to go in the same direction every single time. And so you'll get some of those little areas that will start to do that. They'll start to go in a different direction a little bit. You know, the hair isn't always going to go in the same direction, right? That wouldn't make sense. Hair just isn't like that. If anybody knows a lot about hair, it's a bald guy, right? Just kidding. But I always have to remind my girls that my daughters, you know, at one time I did have hair. I I was born this way, but I went back and forth. So, okay, that's looking about the way we want it over there. But the other thing that I want to do before we go is I would like to smooth out some of these areas right in there. All right, so we can add a few strokes next to the dark areas that we put in there with that chocolate color from the Derwent drawing set. And that may help smooth that out a little bit and add a little bit of middle value right there next to the darker value. It's not that I want to get rid of that darker value, but I don't want it to be so dominant right in there. Okay, and then right here. Well, some of this changes directions as well. So we can suggest some of that right in here. This goes down sometimes. Sometimes it comes up. As long as I can use like a sweeping motion once in a while, I can go in different directions and not always in the same direction. And it should look convincing enough at a distance. Maybe not right up close, but at a distance it should be more logical. Okay, this area, we've sharpened this warm earth, and then see if we can use that just a little bit here. Okay. We'll go a little bit slower with this softer wax-based pencil. There we go. Carol, you missed it. I'm just kidding. Carol says she's a little late to the party tonight. No excuses. No, hope you're doing all right. Thanks for joining. Okay. Now, see, if we wanted some of that blonder hair back over here, I mean, we could erase that, and if we wanted to get real picky about it, we could do that, just so that we look closer to the reference than what we do now. Although for a study, that doesn't bother me. We could switch pencils also. We could start using a different color, but to try to match a middle value as we pull some of these darker values into the area of the highlight. It would make a lot of sense if we did. Okay. I want to see what that looks like. If we do that too often where we're pulling things out like that and not making sure that it represents, a shadow, then it can start looking weird because the hair is actually blonde, not, this darker color. So we'd have to be careful about that because we want to make sure that any of these dark areas are representing shadows, right? Because it's blonde hair that we're depicting. Sometimes our mind will allow us, though, to accept something as being logical when you look at it and not having to think about it as being either the color of the hair that we're looking at, and we're not gonna consciously start thinking, oh wow, that is dark hair that is being streaked across blonde hair. That doesn't make sense, because sometimes your mind won't pay attention to that. It won't think about that too much. This area right here, remember we did this very early on, where we've got a strand pretty much now raking across a dark area, and that we can accept very quickly because everything is brighter in that long elongated stroke right in there. But over here, if I have too many of those, it's not going to be convincing. and it's going to be distracting more than anything. But if you find you start having too many that are dark like that, these strokes of pencil that just aren't communicating real well, you can take them away. Okay, I'm just going to lighten up this whole area right in here where the highlight is supposed to be. And remember, we preserved that very early on in the process. So we can go in there and lighten that. So Linda's asking if I live streamed an ear yet. No, I don't think we did that, Linda. Maybe we will do that next. Okay. I don't know. I think I'm done, guys. Obviously, there's other things we could do with this, but I think I'm okay with the way it looks. I think these are all the pencils we used, are over here on this paper. But I hope that was helpful. I don't know. If you have any questions, let me know. Reach out at any time. And yeah, tomorrow we'll be starting a brand new feature of portraiture. And so we might just do the ear. I think we probably will. So. Oh, thanks, Harry. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out here. This was a lot of fun. It was it was interesting. So again, we used cream Stonehenge paper and pan pastel on the background and on the face. So, all right. So we will see you again tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that would be 4 p.m. Central and I guess Mountain Time. What is that? 3 o'clock, I guess. Is that right? Something like that. So, all right, guys. Enjoyed it. And until tomorrow night, then, stay sharp. Bye-bye.